And now, Eyewitness News celebrates Minnesota in Worthington. Join Ruth Spencer and Stan Turner as your Channel 5 News team celebrates Minnesota.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Angela Storr. Stan Turner and Ruth Spencer are live in Worthington as our Celebrate Minnesota series goes on the road again. We'll be joining them shortly, but first, the day's top news. St. Paul Mayor George Latimer has been a busy man lately. He's at a family farm here in Worthington, and you know, the family farm is considered the backbone of this community. And coming up next, we're going to show you how family support gets a farm through 100 years of every kind of weather climate and also economic climate.
That's right, indeed. And this town has always talked turkey, Ruth. Boy, is it ever. We're going to be talking turkey in a bit. Coming up next, though, we're live at 5. We'll talk to the trainer of that long-legged bird that's been chasing the tall tail with a Texas town. We'll get to that in just a minute.
Coit Drapery Cleaners. Phone for a free estimate.
114 years ago, the very first crops were harvested here in Worthington, and the family farm was born. Today, Worthington is the county seat of Nobles County, which is made up of more than 95% of farmland, and it's located 186 miles southwest of the Twin Cities, just north of the Iowa border. Agriculture, of course, is the primary industry, but Worthington is also a regional stop for shoppers and those in need of medical services. Worthington was founded in 1871 by 4 men who wanted to capitalize on the expanding frontier west of the Mississippi River. One of the men named the town Worthington. That was his wife's maiden name. Today, Worthington is home to more than 10,000 people, and later on we're going to meet one family that is called The Farm, their home for more than a century. And we're going to introduce you to an unusual bird that has people around here talking turkey. But first, more of the day's news from the Twin Cities and the world.
Right, we've had a bit of that, and we will pick up on more of the day's news. But first, we want to tell you there are approximately 900 farms here in southwestern Minnesota in Nobles County. 95% of the county is engaged in farming right now. Most of these are family-owned and operated farmsteads. Many of these families have been growing food, in fact, for more than 100 years. We are at the Hibma farm, Gary and Sally Hibma, and their dog Tuffy running around here.
Yes,
and in addition to corn and soybeans, they also raise hogs, chickens, and some goats to boot, Ruth.
Many of the farmhouses dotting the landscape have been occupied by generations of the very same family. The Hamburger family has 3 generations working right side by side. And now Angela Storr reports, although the farm economy has affected everybody, financial planning and also a friendly handshake still go a long, long way. Paul Hansberger manages nearly 600 acres of corn and soybean crops. He learned how to farm from his father.
When he went in the Navy, I thought, well, probably he won't want to come back to farming. And he says, don't let that farm go. So when he came back, here we are. And so we farmed together for a while till I retired.
The Hansbergers have farmed this land for over 100 years. It was first homesteaded in 1872 by John Hansberger right after he served in the Civil War. Since then, 3 generations of Hansbergers have been born and raised here. The original farmhouse still stands on the property. What is the best thing to do around here?
Ride on top of the pigs.
You ride on top of the pigs?
I tried to once.
What happened?
I missed.
John and his 3 sisters represent the future of this farming operation. Their mother didn't grow up on a farm herself, but she has become quite accustomed to country living, even though she still stays away from the hog house.
It probably took me until last year to know the difference between cultivating and combining. It's pretty major. It's quiet, peaceful. I don't have to worry about my neighbors dropping in unexpectedly and seeing my messy house.
Like most farmers, the Hansbergers have made some adjustments in their farming operation over the years. Paul sold his cattle nearly 8 years ago and has cut back in other areas as well.
We've just tightened up everything. We haven't bought anything new. We've made do with what we have. We've tried to be more efficient in our hog operation, eliminate waste. And, so basically are the things we've done here.
Paul has also taken on part-time work. Ironically, his job is helping troubled farmers process financial forms for credit mediation. Bev will go to work as a teacher's aide in the fall.
And a lot of farmers, definitely, that are out looking for second jobs and some more secure income. hopefully supplementary to their farming so they can continue farming.
That maybe was my dream here a few years ago too, to own a bunch of land to pass on, but if you can't make it work, you know, why do it? You know, I guess that's my feeling now.
But tradition runs strong here, and there still exists the dream that this family farm will continue to thrive in the years to come.
I'd like to see it if it works out. It'd be nice to keep it in the family. Sometimes it won't work that way. It'd be real nice.
Angela Astor, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Worthington.
Now, though many of the family farms produce crops, it wasn't always like that. Throughout the area, turkey farms dotted the countryside, and that's how Worthington became known as the turkey capital.
Yes, and Ruth, even though many of those turkey farms are long gone now, the city of Worthington still lays claim to the turkey capital of the world. It's in a heated rivalry with the city down in Texas. Well, in fact, for the 45 years, there's been a King Turkey Day around here, and for the past 13 years, Worthington has had an annual turkey race. They pick one wild gobbler to race against another wild turkey from Claro, Texas. You see, that city is the one we were talking about. It also claims it is the turkey capital of the world. Well, for the past 8 years, Worthington has gobbled up all the honors. In fact, Paycheck has won 8 of the last 13 races. Last year, there were 4 members on the Worthington Turkey race team. We have one of the trainers right here, Sheila Peterson. Sheila, thank you for coming by. And amongst all of her many activities down here, she took time out to round up Paycheck, who's, you know, the fastest turkey around these days. How difficult was it getting this guy corralled?
Well, we had several people helping. I've lost him once, but he seems to be under control at the moment.
I'm frightened. He's too docile right now. It's not his normal way, is it?
No, definitely not. He likes to run. It's hard to hold him down. He's a good runner, and you just can't keep him still.
Sheila, the world out there is waiting to know, how do you breed a champion gobbler?
Well, this is a wild turkey, and we basically keep him in the wild right before Turkey Day, and we start doing some heavy training.
Heavy training.
Oh,
okay.
Definitely. The bird we run him through a lot of paces. The race team itself works out, and then we work out with the bird. We've had him chasing cars, as a matter of fact. It's good training.
Does he ever catch them?
Oh, he passes them.
Okay, all right. Now, I've learned that the Minnesota-bred turkeys have longer legs than the Texas guys. Is that true? That's kind of an unfair advantage.
That is very true. That's why our bird has won, you know, as many times as he has. His legs are much longer. He's faster, stronger.
So in other words, the Texans make good chili, but they haven't figured out how to breed long-legged turkeys yet.
Definitely not. We do have the answer there.
All right, I've got to ask you, what happens to winners like Paycheck here? I mean, do they go the way of all turkeys, or is there a special place for championship turkeys?
There's a special place for turkeys like Paycheck when he wins, and we always give him a little kiss.
Oh. I noticed it wasn't on the lips, Sheila.
Well, I couldn't reach his lips.
he's casting some weird eyes at me right now. Ruth, Sheila, thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
Before he gets too rambunctious and wants to chase a car or an anchor guy here, I think we'll give it back. You're at a safe distance, Ruth. Thanks, Sheila, again.
Oh, but that was sweet, a little kiss.
It was, right.
Chasing cars and kissing the turkeys, that's how they do it here. Seems to be working. Speaking of chasing, we're apparently chasing some weather that's developing right now. Let's go back to the studio for that.
Thank you, Ruth. During the last couple of moments, the National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning valid from now until 6 o'clock for folks in eastern Chisago County of Minnesota. That's right there. And for the western Wisconsin County of Polk County. That's right there. And on the radar, here's a line of showers and thunderstorms which has got winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. During the last couple of minutes, it put some power lines down on the ground at Lindstrom and Chisago City. That's about 25 miles northeast of the Twin Cities. All of this is moving to the east-northeast at about 35 miles per hour. So you folks in the western Wisconsin County of Polk should be on the lookout for this thunderstorm as it approaches you from the west. Dave Dahl will have more on the weather situation in just a couple of minutes. We'll go back now to Ruth out in Worthington. Ruth?
All right, thank you, Dennis, for that weather update. He's right. We'll be back to celebrate Minnesota from here in Worthington, and Dave Dahl will have even more on the weather next, live at 5.
Well, hello again from Worthington in the southwestern corner of the state of Minnesota. Ruth, we had a nice drive down here.
Yes,
about
we did.
3.5 hours worth. We were most interested to check out the croplands, the farmland down here to see how the crops were doing. And one farmer told us that it was a very, well, we know that it was a wet early spring. But now, with the rains having knocked off almost too much, the crops are beginning to recover from the wetlands.
I don't know too much about farming, but everything looked pretty nice to me.
Yeah, I'm a city boy too.
All looked like everything was plowed nicely.
Things look good, but obviously if we hope to have that corn knee-high by the 4th of July, we're going to need some of that wet stuff. And looking over yonder here in the western sky, we see some thunderheads boiling up there, and that brings us to our pal Dave Dahl, who is standing close by hog heaven over here, David.
That is right. What a place to be, Stan, right by the pig pen. But these guys are having a good time in this very, very warm and sticky air we have over southern Minnesota. And as Dennis just mentioned, that is the breeding ground for some rather heavy thunderstorms. Severe thunderstorm warning out for the next 45 minutes or so for Chisago County and east central Minnesota. But that's headed toward Polk County in Wisconsin. And as you can see right over my shoulder, that is the leading edge of some very hefty thunderstorms, a solid line which extends down through east central South Dakota. We're going to take you back to about noontime and watch as all that thunderstorm develop on the KSTP radar laps. You can see that those heavy thunderstorms continue to develop out to the west mainly, but then a few heavy thunderstorms developed right through the northwest metro, and that is what's now producing that severe thunderstorm just to the north of us. On the live KSTP radar, you can see that that heavy activity continues to push northeastward at about 25 to 35 miles per hour. But what we're concerned with is the line that's just out to the west of us. Look at the Sioux Falls radar live right now, and you can see that that line of heavy thunderstorms, a very solid line all the way from western Minnesota, extends down through northeastern Nebraska, and that line continues to head in our direction. There is a severe risk area, a large one, a moderate risk for much of the central and southern plain states, and then a slight risk of severe weather extending all the way up into southern Minnesota and from there out through the Ohio Valley. And in that, a couple of boxes for the central and southern plain states. That's out for later on tonight. But our main concern, once again, is heavy rainfall. 2 to 3 inches could fall over a large part of eastern South Dakota, southern Minnesota, extending all the way over to the west central part of Wisconsin. Currently outside, though, back in the Twin Cities at their airport, 85 degrees right now. The dew point way up there. That's why it's so sticky outside, 66. It's giving us a 53% relative humidity. The south wind still going at 18 miles per hour. 29.61, the barometric pressure, that is falling. And currently, we have mostly sunny skies, and we still have mostly sunny skies right here in Worthington. However, that could change. Look at the satellite loop. Watch the clouds start to billow in from the west and southwest. Some very, very strong areas of clouds out to the west of us, and that edge of cloudiness is heading right in our direction. U.S. map right now shows the reason why we're going to get that activity. There are a couple low-pressure systems involved. There's one over southern Minnesota, another one over southern Nebraska, and those two are getting together to produce that leading edge of cool air that'll slide through southern Minnesota during the nighttime hours tonight. Expect a cooler but wet day during the daytime hours tomorrow. The forecast map shows clouds over most of Minnesota, and there's that low pressure system in southwestern Wisconsin. A rainy, cooler day expect across most of Minnesota. The forecast in detail for the Twin Cities and for tonight: showers, thunderstorms, of course, likely. Severe thunderstorm is possible tonight. Lows of 62 to 67, a southeast to north wind. Then periods of rain likely tomorrow, and as I said, cooler. Highs 67 to 72. Wednesday night into Thursday, partly cloudy, lows in the 50s, but highs recovering back up to the mid to upper 70s. So we're really going to play nip and tuck with that thunderstorm line, Stan and Ruth. It's really getting close. As you can see, it's starting to turn gray out here.
Yeah, it looks rather ominous, actually.
I think it's only about a half an hour away, Ruth.
Yeah, you know, your Island View Lodge cat there from International Falls, where we were last time, that will protect you.
We could, yeah, I hope so.
What about us?
No, we have
Look
nothing.
at those things rolling.
We left our cap at home.
Like mad.
Coming up next, in sports, the St. Paul Derby gets some bad news, and then we're going to show you how the Twins won their 3rd straight last night. Joe Schmidt will have all the sports next.
Smoke.
Your moms will love you for it.
You can lead a happy and healthy life if you're smoke-free.
Yeah!
Well, the race is still on, but apparently the St. Paul Derby has lost its star attraction. Let's go back to the studio now with Joe Schmidt, and he'll tell us all about it. Joe?
Big blow for Canterbury Downs today.
Thank you, Joe. Tonight at 10 o'clock on the Eyewitness News Update, our special assignment series on gang troubles in Minneapolis continues. Tonight we're going to look at robberies involving Minneapolis gang members. The robberies range from stolen gold necklaces to robbery of businesses. Pat Milan reports on the troubles after spending a week with police on the night shift in North Minneapolis.
And Ruth, as always, before we leave, we must thank a whole lot of people for helping make this broadcast possible. The Worthington Turkey Board, for one, and especially John Benson, whose help, again, was really priceless for us out here. Nice guy indeed. And, of course, Sally and Gary Hibman back here, on whose farm we are broadcasting. Sorry for all the wires and things, but we had a good time. And their kids, Dave, Vicky, and Jim. And down below here, we've got Tuffy, too. Tuffy Hibma, with the world's oldest kid, Dave Dahl, in a funny hat there, and some real live kids. Had a ball out here right now, and weather permitting, we'll be back at 6 o'clock to see you, right?
Yes, I hope so. Thanks for joining us here in Worthington on the farm. We'll be back at 6 with more Celebrate Minnesota. We'll see you then. Good
night. And it's Duluth on Friday.
If you've ever wanted a
And Mayor Latimer offers his update on the state of the city in St. Paul.
And from here in Worthington, Angela Astor tells you about the extensive training for the annual Grand Prix of Gobblers. We'll have those stories for you, much more, coming up on Eyewitness News 6, live via News Star 5. Stay tuned.
And now, Eyewitness News celebrates Minnesota in Worthington. Join Ruth Spencer and Stan Turner as your Channel 5 news team celebrates Minnesota.
Hello, everyone, from Worthington, Minnesota today. I'm Ruth Spencer along with Stan Turner, live by News Star 5 from a farm owned by Sally and Gary Hibma.
Yes, and we thank them very much, first of all, for that. And also we are here, of course, to celebrate Minnesota as we continue our series around the state of Minnesota. A tad windy out here right now, Ruth. Kind of makes your hair stand on end, doesn't it? In fact, folks, it is so windy that Paychecks, the award-winning turkey from Worthington here, is losing his feathers all over the Hibma farm. This is true, honest to Pete. That's what's going on here. Well, for those of you who are not familiar with this area, this part of southwestern Minnesota, well, we'll tell you this. Worthington is just north of the border, a couple of miles, north of the border with Iowa on Interstate 90, about 190 miles from the Twin Cities.
And the signs tell us that the city of Worthington holds just over 10,000 people, many of them involved in farming. The first town buildings were put up here in 1871, creating an important railway stop between St. Paul and Sioux City, Iowa, and that began the settlement of this part of the Midwestern Prairie. A number of Minnesota's 96,000 farms are still operating in this area, producing hogs and beef, corn, soybeans, and some vegetable crops. But you may have heard of Worthington's prominence in another area, and that is turkeys. That's something we're going to talk about a little later on in the newscast today.
We'll do that a bit later, Ruth, but right now, news from the Twin Cities and elsewhere around the region right now. At the top of the news, the 17-year-old driver of a car in which he and two other young people were killed a couple of weeks ago in Annandale, Minnesota, well, he was legally intoxicated, it turns out now, at the time of that crash. That is the finding of a blood alcohol test that was conducted by state investigators who have been probing that accident, as we said about 2 weeks ago. Many residents of Annandale were blaming the dangerous curve at which that accident took place. The design of the highway is what had them so upset. But Dave Andrews reports officials say that excessive speed and alcohol were the killers.
State lab tests show 17-year-old Jason Nyber of Annandale had a blood alcohol level of 0.12 when his car crashed into trees the afternoon of May 29th. Killed in the accident were Nyber, along with 15-year-old Vivian Daniels and 16-year-old Stacy Purcell. 17-year-old Mark Dvorak was the only passenger of the car to survive. Last week, many residents of Annandale walked to the sharp corner on Highway 24 just outside of town, where the youngsters were killed. These people blamed the design of the highway for the accident, demanding the road be reconstructed to prevent future fatalities. But authorities are now confident the accident was the result of speeding and the intoxication of the driver. The driver, Jason Nyber, had been at an end-of-school-year celebration party just before the accident. And today, Wright County Attorney William McPhail said an area liquor store has been charged with selling to minors the beer that was consumed at that party. McPhail added, 22-year-old Stephen Polish of Annandale, the driver of a second car involved with the car that crashed, also faces charges.
Polish was observed by various witnesses and neighbors playing tag and fooling around with the car in which the people were killed prior to the accident. We intend to file charges for careless driving as a result of that. However, he had turned off onto another county road prior to when the other car left the road and the people were killed.
Without question, it has been difficult for family and friends to accept the deaths of the three teenagers. Likely, it is even more difficult now, knowing the suspected causes of the local tragedy. Dave Andrews, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Last week, 2 homeless people died in separate incidents in St. Paul, and this morning a memorial service was held for them. But as Frank Somerville reports, the service was not only to remember the 2, but it had another purpose as well.
Don Lawrence was killed last Tuesday night after he was hit by a drunk driver while crossing University Avenue in front of the Union Gospel Mission. This morning, after a memorial service was held at the mission, a cross was put in place near the spot where he died. After laying flowers beside the cross, friends and acquaintances then drove to Chestnut Street, where another cross was put in the ground, near where Benny Solberg died last week after falling from a ledge to the train tracks below. Today's services were organized by the St. Paul Homeless Coalition. It's the first time something like this has been done, and the reason was not only to give the homeless a chance to mourn the loss of 2 of their own, but also to make the homeless more visible to the general public.
It's a means to show that these are people who have lives that are recognizable. They're people who need to be recognized and who deserve and need the same sort of recognition as everybody else in society.
Although today's events won't bring back the 2 who died, the fact that the services were held at all was important to those attending.
I really feel that, you know, sometimes a lot of other people don't recognize that, you know, these people die and sometimes they don't think they have family, but they do.
Frank Somerville, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
The State Revenue Department today seized close to 30 vehicles owned by a Minneapolis man who is accused of owing the state $40,000 in unpaid taxes. The vehicles, most of them late model Lincoln Continentals, were seized today from a barn in Wright County near Maple Lake. 2 antique cars were also taken into custody. Now, the state says the cars belong to Frank A. Warner of Minneapolis, and he allegedly owes more than $33,000 in back income taxes and then $4,000 in unpaid sales taxes.
We have never gotten a voluntary payment from him, so we're taking this action to have these assets transferred to money so that we can credit his tax liability.
The car seized today will be sold at auction later on this month. The state will take control of the proceeds from that sale. Stan?
Well, Ruth, St. Paul Mayor George Latimer stood before the St. Paul City Council today and looked back over nearly 10 years. This was his State of the City address today. Latimer spoke of economic growth and downtown development, but mostly he credited the people of St. Paul for their strong commitment to a better community.
I have come to believe, however, that it's not in the buildings and the bricks and mortar that finally make the difference in our community. I've come to believe that political leaders like you and me have no more important responsibility than that of helping to build and strengthen a sense of community.
Well, following the speech, Latimer was applauded by the council members who gave him high marks on the remarks today. Still, Latimer is hoping this will be his last such address as mayor. Latimer, of course, is running for governor. On the independent Republican side of the political ledger today, former candidate Paul Overgaard, candidate for governor, said today that he believes that Cal Ludeman will win the IR party endorsement for the government. And this will be over Mike Menning, he says, and over Dave Jennings. Overgaard dropped out of the race for the gubernatorial endorsement in the independent Republican Party just last month. Well, as we told you, not all paychecks really come in envelopes these days. Some of them come, these paychecks, with feathers all over the place.
That, of course, Dan, is Paycheck the Turkey. He is one of Worthington's most prominent residents. And a little bit later on, we're going to explain why as we celebrate Minnesota here in Worthington.
Delve for the new Express document. It's fast.
To many of us, turkeys are the symbol of one of America's most cherished holidays, Thanksgiving. But to farmers in the Worthington area, they are something of a lifesaver. Turkey hatching, raising, and processing helped bring Worthington out of the Great Depression and remain important parts of the area's economy. Well, Ruth and I are live once again via News Star 5 as we celebrate Minnesota this time tonight from Worthington, Minnesota, where the local folks will boast this is the turkey capital of not just the state or the country, but the world.
But Stan, not everyone agrees with that. The folks in Cuero, Texas argue that their town deserves that special title, and the rivalry has led to a famous but friendly competition in something called the Gallup Gobbler. Angela Astor reports.
When folks talk turkey in Worthington, it's serious business. Every year, designated members of the town's turkey board head out to one of the local farms to find that special bird with the spirit of a roadrunner.
A nice leggy variety with as much wild blood as we can get into them. They seem to have that natural ability to run then, and that's what we're looking for in a good racing turkey.
Worthington enters a different bird in the Great Gobbler Gallup each year, but all of them are called paycheck because most paychecks go fast. Last year, Worthington took the traveling trophy from Cuero, Texas for the 8th time in 13 years. It's an event all of Worthington comes out to see.
Go, 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 go!
The first heat of the annual turkey race isn't until September, but the Worthington team begins training in the summertime. The goal is to get the team accustomed to working with wild turkeys and to learn turkey racing strategy.
Go, go.
We've done some screaming at the bird. We do a go, go, go. Usually our hat works. We chase them with our hat.
And why, you may ask, do grown men and women want to be on the turkey team year after year?
Purely the pride. The pride of victory is it. And the being able to goat the other team, I guess, is probably the big thing.
Angela Astor, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Worthington.
Oh, I love that gobbler noise. And we should point out that last year's paycheck came from right here on this farm in Worthington.
They've won the, 8 out of the last 13 years, right out of Worthington. Hooray. Let's take a turkey break here for a moment. We'll tell you that elsewhere around the area, ground was broken in a couple of new buildings today, and local politicians were involved in both those ceremonies. Construction is underway in Bloomington for that city's tallest building. Governor Perpich and Bloomington Mayor James Lindau helped break ground for a 24-story glass structure at the Trammell Crow Company's complex at Highways 100 and 494. The building is scheduled to open in the fall of '87, but has no tenants yet. And earlier in the day, Governor Perpich and State Commissioner Len Levine cut the ribbon to open the Teamsters Service Bureau. The Minneapolis Bureau has been set up to help Teamsters who are facing crises and will provide information to members and their families. Ruth?
Well, information about the weather is forthcoming. We're going to turn to Dave Dahl here on the Hibma farm in just a moment, and we're going to explain to you the holdup that you may have witnessed today in St. Paul. Stay tuned.
See this terrific...
Eyewitness News at 6 comes to you live via News Star 5 from Worthington, Minnesota, just outside the town, actually, on the Gary and Sally Hibma farm. It's a beautiful day, but it's kind of a hair-raising day, though, too, isn't it? Yeah. Well, as we take you on a little pictorial tour of the Hibma farms and the surrounding territory here, we'd like to tell you that we'll be live via News Star 5 again, this time from Duluth on Friday. That's the next stop in our Celebrate Minnesota series, and we hope you will join us at 5 and at 6 o'clock.
I wonder if it's going to be this windy. Let's find out now about the weather. Let's go to Dave Dahl, who I think is horsing around behind us here. Dave?
Got a cap on
to keep his hair down. A lot of nice little horses. Those are quarter horses, big ones and little ones right behind me. It's a real interesting situation, though, here across southern Minnesota, Stan and Ruth, and we've had some severe weather through the east central part of Minnesota. That severe thunderstorm warning, there's still one out for northwestern Wisconsin right now for Barron County. That's out until 6:35. Some strong winds down some power lines in Chisago County of east central Minnesota, also Polk County, Wisconsin. Now, that activity continues to push on to the northeast. However, some very ominous-looking clouds continue across the southern part of the state. We still have the possibility of severe weather. The moderate risk right now is across the southern and central plain states. That moderate risk extends from eastern Kansas all the way down to northern Texas, but a slight risk all the way up into southern Minnesota and the southern Great Lakes. That, of course, includes us here in the Twin Cities, and a couple of severe storm watches out until about 9 o'clock tonight from eastern Kansas right down into northern Texas. And there's the possibility of heavy rain on top of all that severe weather right here in southern Minnesota as well as western Wisconsin and and the eastern Dakotas. 2 to 3 inches possible in a few of those spotty areas across the southern part of the state. Take you back to about noon. KSTP color radar shows the heavy activity mainly to the northwest of the Twin Cities, and that scattered shower and thunderstorm activity continued to develop throughout the afternoon. One heavy thunderstorm right there in the northwestern metro moved right up into northwestern Wisconsin, and on this current radar picture, you can see that activity continuing to push northeastward away from us, but there's still that solid line out to the west of us that will be pushing in our direction. Currently outside at the airport, the temperature has cooled off a little bit. We have a cool breeze right here in Worthington, as well as the Twin Cities right now, 79 for the temp. Dew point at 66. That's still up there, 64% for the relative humidity. Northwest breeze, though, bringing in that cooler air, 14 miles per hour, and the barometric pressure on the rise, 29.62. And currently, we have mostly sunny skies, and that's true right here in southwestern Minnesota as well. Today's high temperature up to 86 officially out at the airport, 67 this morning's low, and so far 0.2 of an inch of rain and some of those showers throughout the afternoon. But cooler air is on the way. As you can see, the lows last night, cooler 50s across the western Dakotas, that bubble of 60s into southern Minnesota, and the real warm and sticky stuff with 70s into southeastern Iowa. That continues to be pushed away by that cooler air, and as that cooler air moves in toward us, we're expecting the possibility of those heavier thunderstorms. The best chance appears to be now later on tonight for much of southern Minnesota, and some of those thunderstorms could hold some heavy rain. U.S. map right now shows the reason why we're having all this active weather. A fairly complex frontal system just to our southwest, a low up in southern Minnesota, as well as one down in southern Nebraska. Those two are teaming up to bring in that cooler air. As you can see, a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity, 5 inches of rain in some spotty areas of eastern South Dakota. That moisture is headed in our direction. The forecast map for tomorrow shows clouds over most of Minnesota, stretching all the way down through the central plains. The culprit, low pressure system in southwestern Wisconsin, continues to push that cooler but wet air up across the southern part of the state. Temperatures tomorrow a little bit cooler in the upper 60s. The forecast for the Twin Cities tonight, showers, thunderstorms likely, of course. Severe thunderstorm is still possible. Heavy rain also. Lows 62 to 67 with the southeast wind switching to the north. Then the outlook for tomorrow, periods of rain likely, cooler, highs of only 67 to 72. Wednesday night into Thursday, partly cloudy skies, lows in the 50s, but highs on Thursday making it back up into the upper 70s. Looking ahead, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, partly cloudy skies, 50s for lows and 70s for highs. So a rather cool breeze right now, Stan and Ruth. Yeah. It feels kind of good, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it does feel good. A lot better than in between the shows. It looked really threatening then.
What a breeze, yeah.
What a breeze. We just brushed by one of those terrible
storms.
Just
went to the north of us.
It did. Look out for flying turkey feathers, Dave.
Okay.
Right?
They're all over.
Boy. Smart. He put a hat on. I should have worn a helmet, too, today. I just can't keep this stuff from flying away. Well, the Jones gang. The Jones gang rode once again in St. Paul today. No. They were not up to any criminal activity. In fact, it was a downright charitable mission they were on. Yeah, they staged a robbery at Gallivan's Restaurants, passing the hat on behalf of the Children's Heart Fund. They collected nearly $50, and before riding off into the skyline, money, we can tell you, will be used to help fund a rodeo to be held at the JR Ranch in Hudson, Wisconsin this coming weekend, Ruth.
Oh, they're good sports.
Good chaps.
Speaking of sports, still ahead, a no-hitter today at the high school state baseball tournament. And a star attraction is pulled from the upcoming St. Paul Derby. Rob Lear has all these stories next on Eyewitness Sports.
Find out why gang robberies seem to be on the rise. And Dr. Michael Breen reports on the young twins awaiting bone marrow transplant surgery. Today, a visit to Como Park, but there is something of a dilemma in their case. We'll hear about that tonight at 10 o'clock, Ruth.
Also tonight, before we leave Worthington, we want to express our thanks first to Sally and Gary Hibma for allowing us to broadcast from their farm here, and also to John Benson from the Turkey Board for all of his fine help today.
Well, yeah, we've got to thank Tuffy Hibma right over here with a Celebrate Minnesota t-shirt. I don't know if we can get a shot of that, but Tuffy's a nice lady and has helped us out, too. And all those turkeys who donated their feathers here today. Thank you very much. See you for the update tonight.
Good night.